Good afternoon, everyone. I want to thank you all for joining us on our virtual parent university. Tonight, we have a guest speaker, and in a few minutes, I'll let Ashley introduce him. But first, I want to remind everybody, if you are watching through our Zoom or through Facebook Live, if you will, in the chat, put your name so we know who all is in attendance tonight. Also, at the end of the webinar, in Zoom, it will give you a link to complete a quick survey. And if you are watching Facebook Live, we will put the link in the chat. So take a few minutes, complete the survey. And we will also give away one of Jon's books that we will talk about, that he's going to talk a little bit about later on. So stay tuned the whole time so that you can have a chance to win one of his books. I'm going to turn it over now to Ashley Melton so she can introduce our guest speaker.
Hello, everyone. I'm Ashley Melton, a program director here at the Children's Council. It's my pleasure to introduce Jon Beaumont. Jon Beaumont is a licensed professional counselor supervisor with a master's in clinical psychology and a certification in cognitive behavioral therapy. He has a wide range of experience working with children, adolescents, and teenagers in both managed care and private practice settings. His professional resume includes 2 years doing assessments and counseling alongside a neuropsychologist, and then 8 years as a counselor at Three Rivers Midlands RTF. His private practice in Columbia, Beaumont Counseling Services, is currently in its 7th year of operation. Jon has used his solution-focused approach to create a groundbreaking method of dealing with bullies, which he has implemented in practice for over 10 years to change the lives of countless victims of verbal torment. He now wishes to share these techniques with a wider audience and hopes to reduce the bullying epidemic. Welcome.
Jon, before you get started, it seems like we're having some technical difficulty. People that are viewing us are not able to see your PowerPoint. So will you stop sharing and try to reshare and see if it'll come back up? I just don't want you to get
Yeah.
started and people can't see what you're talking about. I'm sorry.
Sorry. Right. All right. Let's see if that's better.
If somebody could write in the chat, if you can see, it should say take the power back from bullies. Okay.
All right. Let's see if that's better.
Yep. If somebody could write in the chat.
And we can see it on Facebook Live.
No, it's on a little delay.
Yeah, y'all can hear it. I'm sorry.
It's all right.
Got that. All right, Jon.
Yep. All right.
Okay.
Let me hide this. All right. Well, thank you everybody for joining today. I'm excited to present on the presentation, Take the Power Back from Bullies. A lot of the information is from, like she said, the workbook I wrote for kids and teens to take the power back from bullies. I did want to point out at first, this is for verbal and cyber bullies. It's not for the physical abuse or physical bullies. The best thing to do with them is still always, tell the trusted adult or tell the closest adult, because there's really nothing else you can do about that besides get some help from the adults. All right. So like she said, she went over that. I worked with a neuropsychologist in Florence for a couple years after grad school, and he really had a really good way of breaking down all the complicated stuff about the brain into layman's terms so I can impart that to clients, and I have found that helps, and I'll Hello?
Okay, we can hear you now. You froze up there for a minute.
Okay. Sorry. So let me. All right. So you got the slideshow now? All right. So like I was saying, I've used that strategy in all the situations I've worked in with the all socioeconomic levels, every class, numerous races and cultures, private public schools, kids as young as 6, and the younger they are, the more help they need from an adult. But the 6 is pretty much the lowest ones that I've worked with personally. I know one of my colleagues has done it with maybe a 5-year-old is probably the youngest, so it's usually that and up. It's good for middle school and high schoolers, and even in the inpatient treatment facility I worked at 3 Rivers, where some of the worst bullies are, we used it a lot with them, with kids that were getting picked on and bullied. And then also, as I'll allude to later on, it also works. Same techniques work for adults too. All right, so with this not being a live webinar, you can kind of just answer to yourself, or you're welcome to type it in the chat. How people have either witnessed or experienced some of the following: that's being bullied, being made fun of, being the target of jokes, being laughed at. And pretty much, I think everybody would say yes on that. At least if you hadn't had any personal experience with it, you've definitely witnessed it or heard about it. Next, I got some of the most striking facts, I think, that stuck out to me. These studies were done in 2019 because 2020 hadn't finished yet. The first one was more than 1 in 5 students aged 12 to 16 has been bullied. 160,000 teens have admitted to skipping school because they're being bullied. I imagine that number is a lot higher just because some of them won't admit it. The students that report being frequently bullied, they actually score lower in reading, math, and science. So that shows that it doesn't only affect them socially or emotionally, it also affects them academically. And the most reported type of bullying is verbal harassment. It's not what a lot of people think, just the old school pushing up against the locker, or give me your lunch money. It's more the verbal torment, and that I think some of that includes online and cyberbullying. And then 70% of school staff said they have seen, and again, that number is probably underreported also. Kids aren't the only ones. There's workplace bullying, there's social stuff as an adult, there's relationships, bullying in relationships, there's bullying on social media, obviously the cyberbullying thing. And what we want to talk about is what doesn't work first, because I think a lot of the ways that we've been taught over the years, especially at my age, I'm 40 years old, and the ways that parents talk back don't work quite as well now, because bullies unfortunately have evolved to deal with those ways. So think about, and you can type in chat if you want, what ways were we taught to deal with bullies, or what are the traditional ways to deal with verbal bullies? And then the next thing to think about is how well do bullies usually respond to these actions, especially in today's society. So like a lot of you probably answered to yourself or in chat, one of the main things that they teach us is ignore bullies. Well, unfortunately today, bullies have gotten more persistent and they just keep coming back. Ignore, they can, your nonverbal behavior reads that it actually bothers you, so they keep going until you do something about it, good or bad. Some people try to insult back. As you'll see later in my story, I've definitely tried that before, but the bullies 90% of the time going to be better at insulting you than you are, because what they do on a daily basis usually. So obviously they got a lot more experience with that, so they're going to hurt your feelings a lot easier than you can hurt theirs. Tell the teacher is another thing that a lot of people recommend. especially in today's society, it doesn't work as well because the teacher kind of has to witness that. You can't just take somebody's word for it and punish them for something that, you know, Paul said that Rick made fun of him. She can't just automatically give Rick a consequence because Paul said something, because that would just create too much subjectivity. And then the other thing that some parents recommend is to fight. Now, obviously, there's dangers to this. Not only can the person that's being bullied, the victim, get injured if they happen to be good at it, they could actually injure the bully. Well, that comes with, it could be legal troubles, academic troubles, whether it be suspensions in school or out of school, or expulsion, depending on the severity of it. So that's definitely not recommended. Right. So the analogy I use with my clients that has gotten a great response is it's kind of based on adrenaline. And what I teach them how to do is become the boring roller coaster. So the main reason that um, bullies pick on people can be explained by the roller coaster. So before the ride even starts, we expect it to be fun. And this kind of a disclaimer here, this is based on people that actually enjoy being on roller coasters. So before the ride even starts, you got an expectation. You know, you're going to go up a steep slope, you're going to get to the top, it's going to be really exciting. Then you're going to go down big slope and then back up another one, maybe some loops, and go upside down, and it's going to be real fun. It's going to be a big adrenaline rush. So we start to get excited even in line, or especially when we're going up big steep slope, if you can kind of imagine that. um, Now at the top of the hill, that's when we're most excited, I think. And then the downward drop starts, and then the next loop and everything. So our expectations get met, and after the ride, we feel a sense of accomplishment. Some people feel relaxed or calm, but a lot of I did still got that adrenaline rush going, so you're ready to do it again. So here's how it compares to a bully making fun of somebody. As the bully approaches, it's kind of like going up that first big steep slope. He thinks he knows exactly, and when I say he, I do mean he or she. I know they're bullies of all genders, but it's just easier to put in he, and the majority are still, the statistics say they're male. But just know that I do mean he or she every time I say he. So like I said, when the bully approaches, he expects you're going to respond in a way that shows you're upset, just like we look forward to the adrenaline rush going up the first steep slope. So if you can think in your mind that going up the first steep slope is like the bully coming towards you, about to say something. Um, the the expectation he has, just like we expect to get to the top and then go a steep slope, the expectation the bully has is you getting sad or mad or crying or looking upset, telling him to shut up, saying something mean back to him, running, telling the teacher, running away, threatening to fight him. Any of those things gets the bully excited. That's the adrenaline rush they get. That's why they do it. Now, once the bully makes his or her comment, that's when he's most excited. It's like being at the very top of the first peak of the roller coaster. He thinks he knows without a doubt exactly how you're going to respond in one of those ways that we just talked about. So the question I got for you is, how would you feel if you got at the top? This is given that you actually like roller coasters. How would you feel if you got at the top of the roller coaster and there was no big drop like you expected? Obviously, confusion would set in. And then what if it stayed flat for the rest of the ride? How would that ruin your expectations? Now, even worse, after the first big steep slope you go up and it turns into flat. What if you go up another big steep slope? Would your expectations change? And most of you would probably think a little bit. Yeah, you're still going to be hoping to get a better drop on the next slope, but you wouldn't have as high of expectations because of the first one led to just something flat. Now, what if every slope after that kept leading to just flat, slow rails, and it wasn't exciting at all? All you're doing is going up and then flat, and then up, and then flat. So it's not really exciting. And then the ride ends. So obviously that's a pretty boring ride, and most people wouldn't want to go back for a second or much less a third ride. So it's analogous to, this is exactly how a bully would feel if he doesn't get the reaction that he expects to get. He expects to get a rush from you getting upset. So when he doesn't get what he expects, it gets boring to him. Now, persistent bullies might try a second or third time, and that's analogous to the second and third slope on the roller coaster. You know, you still have a little bit of expectation that it might be good, and then that flattens out and it's boring. And then maybe the third one, a little teeny expectation that it might be a good drop or a fun ride, but then and you're disappointed and bored again. So that if each outcome is just as disappointing as the first, then obviously the ride is boring, and AKA you're not a fun target for bullying if you don't give him the response that he gives. So that's mainly what these techniques that I'll teach are doing, is providing a response that is opposite of what the bully wants. All right, so just a little bit on why the strategy that I'm going to teach works. Reason number one, bullies get a thrill from making you upset. They expect you to get upset, and if you don't get upset, they lose interest pretty quickly. Just like the roller coaster explanation, they're not likely to come back a bunch of times. Reason number two, bullies want to laugh at you, not with you, and they hate silence. Laughter is like fuel to a bully. And the techniques I'll teach will even show you how to get people to laugh with you and not at you, which a bully obviously hates. Number three, giving a reaction different what a bully expects confuses them. Bullies hate to be confused. They love, or they care a lot about what other people think. They actually want to be the bully. They want to be the one that gets to laugh at others' expense. And when they don't get that, that confuses them, and they're likely to feel outsmarted and move on to the next target. Number four, bullies look for easy targets again, and they'll give up pretty easy if their maneuvers or whatever aren't working on specific targets. Once they figure out you're not taking the bait, they'll usually move on to a different person. Number five, bullies often have little patience. Most people know a lot of bullies have a lack of self-confidence. That's why they pick people. They're not happy with themselves. So they try to build themselves up by making other people feel down or getting other people down to their level. When they don't do that, they don't get that rise in confidence. So again, they're likely to move on to a different target. All right, so just a little more about the wrong reactions, which is what you see. I guarantee if you went to any school today, these are some of the reactions that you would get. And I drew these on actually clients, or I drew this from clients that say what they say in the reaction to bullies. So first one you see, the guy says, "You're so stupid." And the girl says, "Shut up, no, I'm not." Well, what's that tell the bully? All right, he got you. He said something that upset you because she got mad or got upset and disagreed with him. Next one is another pretty hurtful one. It says, "Nobody likes you." And the guy is obviously sad, and he says, "You better stop or I'm going to tell." Well, do you think that stops the bully? What's going to happen if you go tell the teacher that Mandy over here said that nobody likes me? And she can't really do much about it. She might be able to talk to Mandy, but again, that's just proving to Mandy that it got under skin, whatever she said. And the third one is going to come up definitely later on. Similar comment is, "Your mom is so ugly." And the guy takes a little different response and says, "If you say one more thing about my mom, I'm going to hit you in the face, you stupid jerk." Now that can turn out a few different ways. If the bully's more than likely not going to say, "Oh, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to talk about your mom," because that's not generally how bullies respond. So if he's going to call the guy's bluff, and then the guy looks even worse. Or if they actually get in a fight, no matter who wins the fight, both people are going to get in trouble. The bully usually doesn't mind getting in trouble. He gets in trouble all the time, and he's not really got too high expectations of his future. That's just generally speaking. So the one that really suffers the most is the one that got picked on. All right. Just important to note that this strategy can be preventative. This is even, I know this is through the parent university out there that Ashley and them put on. Even if your child isn't being bullied, this can be a good preventative measure to take, so that, let's say they're in elementary school now and they're not struggling with being bullied. If they learn that, eventually every child is going to get picked on about something. And whether it's um, happens all the time or not, that varies case by case, but it's always safer to provide them with those tools to avoid it if possible. If they already know how to handle it, they can set that role as not an easy target or it's fun to pick on, so that makes them a lot less likely to get bullied in the future. The techniques taught today are best used, especially with the younger ones, in conjunction work with an adult. And that can be a counselor or a therapist or just a parent working with them on a consistent basis. But like I said, the younger the child is, the harder it is for them to understand these concepts, as you'll see. And it's important for the child or the teen to talk with some trusted adult on how the comments from the bully actually makes them feel. And I do want to point out, whenever I say bully, this can be just being picked on. It doesn't have to be the classic big bully that picks on everybody. It might be just somebody that picks on them and just says something to hurt their feelings. So it's basically anybody that is struggling with comments from other people that's hurtful. And a major point that I'll say, I'm sure several times, the techniques that I'm going to teach are behaviors. They're not beliefs, as you'll see what I mean in a minute, but they're behaviors that lead to the frequency of the bullying being reduced. Just another quick note, sometimes if working with one of your kid, if you're a parent to the kid or counselor to the kid, and they have a low self-esteem, it might be helpful to do some self-esteem building at the same time you're teaching them these techniques, or maybe even before you teach them these techniques. That can be done through just helping them realize and express their positive qualities, so that way they won't be as bothered by the negative attributes that the bully's targeting. Right, so my technique, I call it the STAY method, the STA method. There's 3 simple steps to it. All are very simple, but the A takes more practice. They can be used separate, but the best way is to use them all together. And I did want to point out that these techniques at first sound, I use the word crazy to most people when they first hear them, but that's actually why they work, because we're going to do the opposite of what the bully expects us to do. And kids and teens have an even harder time buying into these techniques at first. And that's why it's so important to practice with them and explain it to them. And something like the workbook that I made definitely makes that process a lot easier. All right, so the S of the STA method. Before I tell you what it means, just kind of think about what would be the face you would make if a bully's saying stuff that makes you upset. You can make this at home. I can't see anybody's video or anything, but you know what kind of face you would have if somebody says something upsetting. And then the next question is, what's the last face that a bully expects to see in response to an insult? He or she says something really hurtful. What's the very last face they expect to see? And as you more than likely guessed, it is smile. So when a bully calls you a name or talks about your family or says anything to hurt your feelings, what I recommend to clients and everybody listening today and everybody period is just smile, and even more might let out a little laugh. Now, why do this? That's the exact opposite of what he expects. Think about how confusing that is to a bully if he calls you stupid or calls you fat or whatever he might call you. if you smile in reaction or kind of laugh at the joke. That's the first part of blowing his mind. After you smile, just go on ignoring him. Act like it didn't bother you at all, whether you're talking to a friend, reading, or doing whatever you were doing. The bully might keep taking shots at you, but you just got to be persistent. Just flash another smile and get back to doing what you were doing. Just a little tip for the kids and teens using this is the best to make your smile look genuine. You don't want to look sarcastic and a big cheesy smile because they might take that as kind of a comeback or think that you're trying to be sarcastic. So try to make it as genuine as possible. I've had several kids and teens practice that in my office. I don't know if y'all remember the Tyra Banks thing, smize. It's kind of smiling with your eyes, but that can be taught. And the Dufresne smile can also be taught, and just get them to think about something funny, and that helps a lot. So it's just a little example from the workbook. You can see the bully's picking on the girl while she's reading at recess, and she just flashed a smile, and then you see how confused the look on the bully's face is. And that actually happens in real life too, not just the cartoons in the workbook. All right, so now we go to the T. Another question for you. What's the last thing that a bully expects to hear after he says something mean to you? And this is opposed to all the things like when we went over the wrong reactions, like shut up or I'm gonna tell the teacher or whatever. He expects to hear that kind of stuff. What's the last thing he expects to hear? Hint, hint, starts with T, and it is thank you. Again, I know this sounds wild, but if you say thank you, especially with a smile, the bully, you have no idea how confusing that can be to them. And the good thing about this part, the T, is it can be used in reaction to any insult. Doesn't matter what they say. You can always say thank you. Special note to parents, your child isn't agreeing with what the bully says on the inside, not cognitively. But when they say thank you, it's just a behavior to show the bully that whatever they said isn't bothering them. So I don't want you to think that if the bully's making fun of the mom or dad or one of the other family members and the kid says thank you, it's not saying, yeah, I agree with you and you're right on the inside. They don't actually believe that stuff. It's just a behavior, like I said, to reduce the frequency of bullying. And so it just tells the bully that whatever you said doesn't bother me. I'm just going to say thank you and move on my day. So here's a few examples. First one, we'll call her Mandy again. It says, "Ha, you failed the test. You're so stupid." And the girl just says, "Thank you." Obviously, the bully's confused. Next one, the guy says, "What's wrong with your face? You're so ugly." The guy just responds, "Thank you so much, dude." The bully's, what? Whatever. Just doesn't have any comeback with that because he never expected it. And then the last one, again, kind of alludes to the story in the book. It says, "Your mom is so fat." And the guy just says, "Thank you, man." And the bully's like, "But I said, I was talking about whatever." And he walks off. I've seen it time and time again, personally, and with clients that I taught, or at 3 Rivers especially, I would be able to witness it firsthand. The bully almost every time is just blown away by the fact that somebody would say thank you to an insult. And I'll discuss later, that's actually cognitive dissonance is why that works. So you can vary the ways you say thank you. Obviously, you can say thanks, I appreciate that, thanks a lot, thanks for noticing, whatever sounds comfortable to you, as long as it means the same as thank you. Right, so now we get to the A. So smile and thank you might work, and if it does, great, but you still need to have one more tool in your toolbox just for those really persistent bullies, or really ones that have a even more of an urge to hurt your feelings. So basically, you got to do the exact opposite of what he or she wants to do or wants you to do. So here's, I'll tell my part of the story, and this is loosely explained in the workbook. As some of y'all might seen, the title of the workbook is My mom's a big fat whale. Obviously, my mom is not a big fat whale. So I'll tell you the story of how that came about. So I was in eighth grade, I think around eighth grade, and there used to be a bully. I guess you could call him a bully. It's just somebody that picked on us all the time. Me and my group of friends. He just had I guess he had books or something on mama jokes, your mama jokes, if y'all remember those. And I've always been a mama's boy in a good way, not a bad way. Always, mom's been really important. So for some reason, the mama jokes really bothered me. And he would call her everything from fat to stupid to ugly to whatever. And for some reason, it got under my skin. I tried all kind of different things. I tried being nicer to the guy. I think I like bought him snacks at lunch or something, thinking that would make it stop. It didn't. I tried insulting him back. That didn't work because, like I said earlier, he was always better at those things than most people. I tried, laughing at other people whenever the guy would make fun of them. Work, he still came back around to me. So just randomly one day, I don't want to make like it was this big revelation that I thought about one night and decided on the technique I was going to use. I don't know where it came from the first time I used it, but he came up and he said something like, "John, you know how fat your mama is?" And I just said, "Yeah, man. Yeah, David. Mom's a big fat whale. We have to take her back to the beach every weekend and give her a bath." And I still remember a couple of things. One, all my friends laughed at my joke as opposed to his. And I remember the look on his face was just the most confused look I've ever seen on anybody. And I remember he was just like, "What? But," and he turned around and walked out to the double doors to go back in the building because we were outside at recess. So right then I was like, okay, that was different reaction. And I didn't know where it came from, but I kind of realized that I was on to something. Now obviously, I did not believe my mom was a big fat whale, and we didn't have to take her back to the beach every weekend. My mom's a beautiful lady. Um, Always been very, very important to me, and she actually supports this techniques and these techniques and the title of the book she approved and everything. Um, so that's basically my story and how this part came about. So as you saw from the story, you basically just have to agree with the bully. Again, I know it sounds crazy or wild, but it's basically doing the opposite of what we've always been taught. That's why it confuses our brain so much. That's why the practice is so important, because it seems so odd. Practicing, especially kids and teens, over and over helps them see, okay, I see exactly why this would work. And the term for what this creates in us and in the bullies is cognitive dissonance. And that's the state of having inconsistent thoughts, beliefs, or attitudes, especially relating to behavioral decisions and attitude change. So when we think about saying thank you or smiling or much less agreeing with a bully, that kind of throws our brain for a loop, because why would you agree with something mean that somebody's saying? But think about this other thing. If it confuses you when I'm teaching you this stuff, how much do you think it confuses a bully when you say it spur of the moment? So again, just to clarify, you're agreeing in your head, and you do not and should not agree with the bully. Or in your head, you shouldn't agree with them. Sorry. This is just what you're saying out loud. You want to use self-control to not show the emotion, because if you say thank you and you're still mad or look sad or something, it's not going to have the same effect as if you act like it doesn't bother you at all. Um, the the extra credit version, I guess you would say, is adding a joke about yourself. Don't just agree, but add another joke on top of what the bully was trying to say. And this can be about you or the person he was targeting. And that just adds another level to it. And that's how you get people to laugh with you and not at you. Um, and then again, kids are always need to talk to a trusted adult to talk about the ways that those comments hurt their feelings. Even if they handled the bully perfectly, it still could have hurt their feelings. And that's definitely worth talking to, again, a parent, counselor, therapist, mentor, whoever it might be, that can help them actually process those feelings. but showing the bully that it hurt your feelings does absolutely no good. All right, so here's the example from the book. To the guy in the book is called Jay. Like I say, it's loosely related to my story. And the bully just comes up and says, "Have you realized how fat your mom is?" And Jay says, "Yeah, you're right, David. My mom's a big fat whale." And the bully's confused, like you see. And like I said, here's some other examples. The first bully, that's a girl, says, "Your legs are so skinny, I'm surprised you don't fall over." And this next comment actually came from a past client, or similar to what she said. She said, "Glad you noticed. I like to call them toothpicks for giants." And this girl was 10 years old when she came up with that. And obviously that confuses the bully because they kind of trumped her joke with another joke about herself. And it's not self-deprecating, it's just a behavior that shows the bully that they can't bother him. Next one's a dumb joke, the dumbest kid in class, and the guy just comes back with a classic response, and "Yeah, you're right, I'll probably fail recess." Again, the bully's confused. Next one is the bully attacking somebody's family because his dad a big loser. And the guy says, "You're right, I think he might be allergic to winning." Another line I've heard from a client. Um, and then again, the bully's confused. All right, so I want to share a couple more examples of how people kind of steal the bully's thunder. There's a guy at Three Rivers. When he first got there, he had longer hair. He liked his hair, but the kids were starting to pick on him. They were starting to make fun of his long hair. So he came in my office talking about how bad it was bothering him. He was actually about to get his hair cut off, even though, like I say, he liked it a lot. We went over the techniques that I've just revealed to y'all, and he thought it was a good idea to at least try before he cut his hair. So we came up with the idea that he would go back, and next time somebody said something, he said, "Yeah, you're right, man, call me Shaggy." Now, that nickname stuck with him. He didn't mind it because he liked his shaggy hair. He knew it was shaggy, but he liked it. To this day, actually, I saw him in private practice after he graduated Three Rivers. He's doing great, and I still hear from time to time. But to this day, I still get messages from him, and if he ever sends me an email or something, it's, "Hey, Mr. John, it's Shaggy." So he's stuck with the nickname, owns it, doesn't take it as a cut down or anything. Bulldog example was another kind of personal one to me. It was in high school. Somebody was, I think the comment was, "You know why this girl didn't like you. They knew I liked the girl. They knew how to get under my skin." And before they could even tell me whatever they were going to say about how the girl didn't like me, I said, "Yeah, it's probably because of my fat bulldog face." Now, I've always had fat cheeks. I don't mind them at all now because they don't make me look as old as I actually am. But I shook my face back and forth like a bulldog. And again, same kind of thing. My friends around me started dying laughing at what I said. The guy didn't even get a chance to finish telling me why he thought the girl didn't like me. So just totally avoided that situation. And that's one of the numerous examples over the years of how I've used it. A real touching example, I think, of how an adult actually used this was one of my clients was going to a funeral, and she knew she was going to see her daughter. Her and her daughter don't have a great relationship at all. They actually have a horrible relationship, and her daughter likes to make a scene. So she was worried about what her daughter was going to do at her dad's funeral. So we prepared for it using all these techniques, and it actually did happen at the funeral. My client's daughter came up to her and started just cussing at her and telling her how nobody loved her, and saying all these mean things about her. And the way my client responded was, "Thank you for saying that at my dad's funeral." And she walked off. So obviously the daughter is the one that looked like the horrible person in that situation, as opposed to my client lashing back out. And the client actually went on to give an excellent, what I'm told, eulogy at her dad's funeral. So that one was really cool. More examples. Comedians have been using this forever. It's a little more self-degrading when comedians use it, and I don't push clients to do that just to automatically make fun of themselves without being prompted by the bully. But I think an even better example is 8 Mile. I don't know if you've all seen the movie with Eminem or B Rabbit. He was in the movie. He stole the bully, if you will's thunder at the end, because he pointed out all the things that he knew the guy was going to say about him. He was poor. He lived in a trailer. His dad left. I can't remember all the things he said about himself, but when it was the guy's turn to make fun of him at the rap battle, the guy had nothing to say. And then the most recent one I saw was, might be almost a year ago now, but Nick Jonas was on he's a singer, for one of y'all that don't know. I'm not a huge fan, but I know who he is. He was on some kind of award show performing, and I guess somebody caught a picture of him at some point, and he had a piece of food stuck in the middle of his teeth, and they posted it online. A couple people tried to make fun of it first, and after only a few comments, he responded that it was kale between his teeth, and at least you guys know I eat healthy, is what he said. So instead of lashing back and saying, why are y'all picking on me, or why are y'all focusing on this instead of my performance, he just kind of owned it. And yeah, I had food in between my teeth, but at least you know I eat healthy. All right, so the ultimate way, like I said, is to combine all these things. If you can smile and say thank you and then agree with them with a little joke, that's the best possible response you can have to a bully. Just a little bit on cyberbullying. It is very, very bad. The statistics can't even begin to measure how bad this is or how much it happens. It takes less courage from the bullies. The bullies are often even meaner on this, or more malicious, because they have all the time in the world to sit and think about what they want to say to hurt somebody. And then also it's 24/7 access. You can go online at any time. If somebody's got a Facebook picture posted or Instagram or whatever, you have infinite amount of time to think about what you want to say about them, and infinite amount of time to actually respond. And you can respond as many times as you want. You might block that person. They're just going to create another account. I think they're called trolls nowadays. They can create as many accounts as they want and keep going after you and keep attacking you, and you might not even know who it is. So how do you solve that? Same thing, same techniques. And it's a little different because you're typing it, but it's basically the same thing. Instead of smiling, I guess you could do a smile emoji. You can skip that part if you want, if you're not big into emojis, but basically either saying thank you or thank you and agreeing works the exact same way just as well. And I've seen this used by a lot of celebrities too, instead of lashing back. So in the two examples here, the first one is the classic one. The guy says that picture makes you look fat, which he knows is going to bother the girl. But instead of saying, no, it doesn't, or, why are you looking at me, or I'm trying to lose weight, or whatever she might say to let him know that it bothered her, she says, thanks. I was hoping to get that reaction from people. Now, she doesn't believe that, again, but she says it in response to show him that it doesn't bother her. The next one, the girl says, everything you say online makes you look stupid. And the guy just comes back with, well, then mission accomplished. Again, proving to her that whatever she says doesn't bother him. Right. So I did just want to point this out because he was a huge supporter of Dr. Masters. I'm not sure if any of you heard of him. He's written several books, and he was the psychiatrist at Three Rivers for a while I was there. I don't even know what all his accolades mean, but he obviously has a, and you can just read what he said about the workbook right there. And because I did develop, or I think make some of the techniques even better while I was at Three Rivers working with him, and he got to see firsthand how well they worked. And he's always been a big supporter, so he's really pushing to get this book out too, and I appreciate him so much. All right, so as far as the workbook, unfortunately, an hour isn't enough time to cover everything in it, so I did want to kind of explain the more detailed that it is. It is in story form. Like I said, it's loosely based on some of the experiences I've had. but it does help the readers see how and why the techniques work. There's ways for it's a workbook, obviously, so there's places to write the experience the reader, the kid, or the teen has had with bullies, how it made them feel, how they reacted, how that worked, how their reaction worked. There's more detailed explanations for each one of the steps and why they work better. There's more examples for each step. There's practice pages at the end. And then the three things I think are really helpful. There's a little guide that's easy, or their go-to responses. So if the kid's doesn't have that great of imagination when it comes to comebacks, there's go-to responses that they can use at first until they see how well the technique works, and that helps in the buying in process. Also, there's advanced responses for the most common insults. Again, those are kind of just ones to use if you can't come up with your own. And then there's one bonus special response, I call it. I can't really tell what, or I couldn't come up with a better term for it than that, but it is another one, kind of like thank you, but it's more detailed than that, but it works on virtually any comment that a bully can make. Right, so I do want to stress that with the young kids especially, but even for the older ones and the teens, it's usually not enough just for, I've had a couple parents try just to tell the kid what the techniques are and try to teach them. It doesn't work quite as well. That's why I created the workbook after being asked for so long by parents. Having something tangible to actually write down and process with the parent or with the counselor, with an older brother, whoever it might be, really makes a huge difference with the kid. So I did want to offer something tonight for the people watching. There's a paperback version, which I highly suggest because, again, you can write it down and that helps the kid a lot. But there is a Kindle version also. And for anybody that joined the either Zoom or the Facebook tonight that purchase a paperback, I will automatically email them a copy of the Kindle edition for free. And that's from now, I'll do that from now until Friday. And that's just for y'all being patient and sitting through an hour of me talking about this stuff. And I do appreciate it, but I'll put my email address at the end. And if you can just email me just the proof of purchase, I'll email you the ebook right away. Right, so some links. I think Ashley's going to share these in the chat if anybody is interested. The workbook is on Amazon. It's on BookBaby, which is where I got it published through. There is a Facebook shop. If you can just go to my Facebook page, there's a way to get it from there. And then it's also in limited quantities. I'm not sure how they calculate how many they're supposed to order, but it is online at places like Walmart and Target and Barnes and Nobles. I think some Google Books and a lot of different places. So like I said a while ago, if you want to get your free Kindle edition, if you do purchase the paperback, just email me. It's Jon, Jon, at BeaumontCounselingServices.com. And that is until this Friday, the 11th. And then the only other thing I wanted to share was I do offer lots of other free tools and insights through my weekly newsletter. It's not one of those annoying ones that send 5 emails a week. It's just one email a week, sometimes even less than that, that are really just things I think everybody can use or would like to read. So that's the sign up for that. And Ashley's got that link to post also. And that's just references. So I think got about 10 minutes left. So if we wanted to entertain some questions.
Okay, the links are in the chat, and I think Miranda's going to put them on Facebook Live too for everyone on Facebook to have them. You do have a few questions.
All right, I'm looking at the chat now.
Okay. The ones that I'm about to read are off of Facebook. If anybody has questions on Zoom or Facebook, now is the time to go ahead and get them in. Okay, the first one. What do you do if you suspect your child is the one bullying?
Um, so if your child is the one being the bully,
Yes.
well, my first, I'm a little bit biased, but my first reaction is, I think talking to a third person is a lot of times the best thing to do, because a parent, we all know from listening to our parents, when a parent tells you something to do or something not to do, a lot of times that's the last thing you want to do. Um, for the one that's actually bullying, a lot of times it's a confidence issue or a control issue. If they don't have enough control over their life, or they don't feel they have enough control over their life, they try to take control in other ways. Or if you notice with this particular person, if you notice that your child is particularly unhappy about something in their life, that's what needs to be targeted. I think if say if they're not as popular as they wish they would have been, or they wish they were, I would try to address that and maybe work on some social skills to make friends in a different way, because they're trying to get attention from other people just in the wrong way. Does that make sense?
Yes. Sounds good. Okay, the second one. This is a good question, too. When your child is lashing out at home but is secretly being bullied in school, do you still follow the steps without them admitting to being bullied?
I think so, and I think that's where you can kind of go at it at a preventative measure. You don't have to call them out and say, "I know you're being bullied. We got to deal with this." It's just whether it's you or a lot of times, if you can, I don't know if that person in particular has an older brother or an older friend or a cousin or whatever it might be, that it's sometimes easier to hear from them than the actual parent. But if the parent's the only option, then still it's like, okay, here's something that I think we should work on just in case it ever happens to you. You can frame it like that. Or maybe you can teach some of your friends that are getting bullied to use this kind of stuff or these techniques. Just don't make it all about them, because if they're not admitting it to the parent yet, then they're probably ashamed of it and think maybe the parent will be disappointed. So just come at it from a kind of a third person angle, and that should work.
Good. Okay, that's the last question on Facebook Live. Anybody that's with us on Zoom, if you do have a question, now's the time to put in the chat box. I do want to say, if you're watching this recorded on Facebook Live, if you have any questions for Jon, you can put it in the comments, and he said he'll go back and read the comments every few days, and maybe he can answer those there.
Yeah, for sure. I don't mind doing that at all. And you also have my email address that you're welcome to send me questions to that, or if you want more details about the book or just about the techniques in general, I'd be happy to provide those. Like I was telling Ashley and them earlier, I didn't get into this to make $1 million or anything. It's just I really do know from all my experience and all my colleagues' experience using these techniques, like how well they do work if somebody will actually give them the chance. Again, it sounds wild at first, and you wouldn't believe that some of the faces that I get from people when I tell them that they need to smile or say thank you or agree with the bully. They think that I've gone mad. But once they actually see a couple of examples or deal with a couple of examples, then it to make a difference. And once they do it the first time, they really, once they see that look on the confused bully's face, that's what really solidifies the fact that it works. All right. So any more questions or anything?
And that's it. Nothing else has come through.
All right. Well, I did want to thank you, Ashley and Miranda, for having me. I really appreciate it. So I can get this stuff out to more people, and hopefully more people can use it.
We do want to give away two of Jon's books tonight. So he's going to pick a number. Um, he's going to pick one from our Zoom, and then he's going to pick one from our Facebook Live. and we will get in touch with the winners and get them their copy of the book. We also plan to, we've purchased some extras. We plan to use it in a couple programs we have here at the Children's Council, and also to donate some to some of our schools here in the Lancaster County School District. So we will be getting in touch with those schools to get those out to those guidance counselors so that they can be using them as well. Ashley, if you want to get him some numbers together so he can pick our...
There's more people watching than have put their name in the comment. So if you're watching, go ahead and put your name in the comment, because that's how he's going to pick who gets a free copy of the book. We'll give them a second to do that.
Okay.
And you've got a lot of comments in the chat thanking you and telling you how great the information was. And it was wonderful information. I know it's very helpful to parents.
Okay. Thank you. Yeah, I see those. I appreciate that. I'm glad it helped. All right. You ready for me to pick a number?
Yeah.
I'll pick lucky number 3.
Okay. We'll do 3 for both.
Okay.
So let's see. So for Zoom, we've got Heather Mueller.
All right. Congratulations, Heather.
And for Facebook Live, we have Catherine Ott.
Okay.
Awesome. You
Good
know,
for her.
you know who that is?
I might.
Awesome.
If Catherine, if you will put your email address in, you can either put it in Facebook or you can send us a private message so that we can get you the information or get some information from you on how to get you the book. But we want to thank everybody for joining us tonight. If you have any, if you watch it after tonight, and like Ashley said, if you have any questions, put them in the chat. John will check on it a couple times and answer any questions that he can answer. This is our last Parent University for this year, but we do plan to do some more virtual Parent Universities starting back up in January. So keep an eye out on our Facebook page to see when those will be coming in January. And also don't forget to do our Survey Monkey. It's 4 questions. It doesn't take long, and you will receive a gift card for completing it. So I want to thank you again, John, for being our Parent University speaker tonight. He's closing off for the year, so it was a good conversation, and we look forward to seeing you all next year.
Really quick, really quick. I'm sorry.
Go ahead.
So Heather Mueller, who you chose, is our executive director. That's why I giggled when you chose her. She wants to donate her copy to Clinton Elementary, which I think is awesome.
Nice. That's where I went to elementary school.
Worked out perfect.
That's right. Well, thank you, Heather. Clinton appreciates it.
They will. All right. Thank you, everybody.
Yeah, and thank you all again for having me.